Hi, and thank you for joining me in another episode of the Tech Exec podcast. And our subject today is catastrophizing. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, and today I want to talk about something that hits a bit too close to home. Catastrophizing is this mental habit that many of us have to start thinking about things in the worst case scenario sort of way. We just see how things will go wrong and immediately know that it's going to be problematic. We immediately think that the worst case scenario is what will happen. We disregard the fact that there are so many options in the way between what we have right now and the worst possible outcome. And this is something that sometimes has a hold on us as individuals and as organizations over years. This too comes, like the previous episode, comes with a bit of thinking that I'm doing because of what's currently happening between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, because we've been listening for about a decade here in Israel to the stories of the might of Hezbollah and how Iran has made sure that this is their proxy that's defending it, how any war between Israel and Hezbollah will result in thousands of direct missiles hitting the most strategic locations in Israel with tens of thousands of casualties. And, knock on wood, it seems that over the past 2 weeks, Israel has dealt Hezbollah some fatal blows, and they are incapable of really returning anything substantial, meaning it seems that at the end of the day, we in Israel and a lot of the West have been catastrophizing about the effect Hezbollah will have. And this thinking has resulted in letting that murderous group continue to grow in power and also allowing Iran to grow in power because their proxy was here for too long. Now, of course, we're talking at a different scale, but sometimes we do the same personally. I know that I have this tendency, and I see it with many others. When you hear about something, you hear about bad news, you even get a glimpse of something that might go the wrong way, you start thinking like this is already happening. You already have that. You saw someone in the morning who you told good morning to, and they just gave you half a smile, and the regular smile, immediately you're thinking, oh my God, they're gonna quit, or oh my God, something's breaking. This is something that we see everywhere, and I think that our neurotic tendencies and doom scrolling on Twitter has made it worse for so many of us. And when this happens, when we're immediately catastrophizing, we're limiting our ability as leaders to look at things, consider all the real viable options in front of us, and choose the best one, because we tend to give too much weight to that one option that is almost certain to not occur. Now, I'm not going to go into risk management and what should you be doing in case you think that the catastrophe scenario is indeed something that might actually happen. But if you've given any thought in reading and practice to things like CBT and how we can take care of our own selves, there's a big part here in this tendency of catastrophizing to realize that if we take a second and we start breaking things down and thinking about what would actually happen, what will we do in any sort of scenario along the way, we can really break down a lot of things and realize that we're addressing paper tigers. And this is critical to allow ourselves to move faster. And there are two things that are specific to tech executives that I want to marker here. One is that techies often have this default stance of looking for the worst, because we're used to, maybe when we're writing code, to always have an else for every if. We always have to think about every sort of edge case, because in code it is all possible. Even if what it means in practicality is that 1 every 10 billion requests will just fail and we can continue, you're going to be spending time writing that else to ensure that it works. And that sometimes is good as an engineer, but it is not necessarily the sort of thinking that you need as a leader and executive. Of course, you should be mindful of actual risks, but you should not allow those risks to take a hold of you and your organization. And second, for techies, when you verbalize the catastrophe scenario so often, not just, even just talking about the effects it has on the team, because techies seem to have this tendency more than others, and I'm even seeing it when I'm talking about technical co-founders, and there's this clear gap between the CEO and the CTO in many co-founder pairs, where because the CTO tends to talk about this catastrophizing scenario so much, you lose with time the respect and the attention of the rest of the executive team, because they learn that you're constantly the boy crying wolf. And if they're correct and you're just crying wolf for everything you see, why should they be spending their time listening to you and heeding your warnings? So ensure that you are being responsible, but you're not letting that default reaction that might crop up to take a hold of you and decide for you how you're going to be spending your organization's time. Don't shoot down any opportunity just because there's some risk involved. Don't automatically assume that anything that can blow up will blow up unless we're talking about Hezbollah pages. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. Again, check out my new YouTube channel with a bunch of new videos that I think you're going to like if you like this podcast, as well as my newsletter, links in the show notes. Thank you. I'll be here next week. Oh, and one last thing. Happy Rosh Hashanah to my Jewish listeners. Ciao.